Hi, everyone. Today we are going to talk about industry competition. So industry competition is a very important topic. It's one of the major external analysis that top management teams should do if they are interested to work on to formulate their strategies. If you don't understand what's going on in the environment, it would be very difficult for you to formulate a strategy that will help you attenuate potential threats and uh, capture emerging opportunities. So before we get in, let's do a quick recap on what we have learned from the next lecture. So in the next lecture, we'll talk about strategy management. We define it really involved in the process of three important steps. First one is formulating, second one is implementing, and third one is controlling the major strategic initiatives. Oftentimes, such strategy management uh, activities are done by the top management teams, and sometimes middle managers or lower level employees may be able to provide helpful information um, um, that could fit into the overall strategic planning. And also, another key to highlight is that strategy management is really involved top management team representing the interests of company stakeholders. So that way, such involvement will ensure that stakeholders' interests will be well taken care of. One of the reasons, and we also in that lecture we talk about why we study strategy management. Overall, to better understand the impact of firms on economy, firms, and society, we have talked about how firms are considered the driving engine of any economy and will create the corresponding wealth. At the same time, it will also provide goods and service, complementary goods to other firms, while sometimes they may result in creative destructions, especially when a firm is introducing innovative products that will completely change the technology paradigms. And then that's when creative destruction will result. Other companies who will not be able to compete with these firms will have to declare bankruptcies. And firms also significantly influence our society as well. Think of all the innovative products they introduce really create values to end users. At the same time, all those innovation, all those creations the firm created could have moral issue as well. So that's why in the process, it's important to understand some of these implications that firms may experience. We at the end of the next lecture, we also talk about the difference between treating strategy management as art versus science. So traditionally, some may believe that strategy management is really art instead of science, basically because of all the high uncertainty in the environments. Because of these uncertainties, some believe that uh, it would be very difficult to study or to come up with a systematic tool set to be a good managers. On the other hand, study after study have shown that that's not really entirely true because oftentimes we can these strategy management process, whether it's planning, implementation, or control mechanism, can be quantifiable. So, and furthermore, you can, based on these data, you will be able to analyze and detect the underlying patterns. So, in the sense of uh, research, scientific study have found a lot of evidence on how people can improve their strategy management process and resulting in increasing of firm performance. But we do need to recognize that yes, there are uncertainty in the environment and how to deal with this. The implementation of strategy management will involve some creative solutions to these problems. And we also have talked about this, one of my previous studies showing the importance of industry level effects. This study was done in 2018. We collect crowdfunding data. So based on our study, we found that about 9.42% of the performance difference among firms, among crowdfunders, or among entrepreneurs actually would be contribute to industry level effects, while firm level effect contribute to way more variations. So that really means that firms have firm has great degree of freedom in terms of influencing how they will perform, how firm will perform. So that's why strategy management is quite important. All right, so for today's agenda, we'll do the following. We'll first define what is industry and we'll then discuss the industry life cycle. We will then analyze industry potential profitabilities using Michael Porter's 5 force model. And then we will conclude by highlighting the difficulty or the limitations of Porter's models. So let's get started. So I have asked you to do this online discussions. So basically, I asked you to visit website of major restaurant chains and identify industry in which each of these chain operate. And I also asked you to how you will categorize them into the same or different industry, right? And also talk about why or why not. So through this exercise, from all these discussion, you probably would notice that oftentimes it's difficult to define an industry, right? If we simply look at the restaurant industry, we can actually see that there are different type of cohort of competitors competing, although they all compete in the restaurant business, all of them have adopt very different business model, right? Some restaurant offers full service business model, and where they will uh, think of the traditional restaurant, for example, right? Other restaurant will offer limited service, such as those franchise chains, such as McDonald's, etc. And there are others combination of those two. So this graph simply illustrates that the industry composition also would be constantly changing as well. So the reality is that although when we say industry analysis, the first thing we need to be aware of is that how do we define industry, which can be quite tricky. And also, this table really illustrates the dynamic nature of how industry may evolve. So from this graph, we can see that this restaurant business initially will have a lot of restaurant offer full service business model, while eventually, as time goes by, those limited service, business model, the franchising strategies have actually increased quite significantly. Right? So let's simply highlight the dynamic natures of industry that you will have experienced. So let's take a look. What is an industry? Well, to simply define, an industry is a group of companies that produce competing products or services. So a good way to analyze industry is simply look at the top products and the and what those products are. Then you simply trace back to identify who those firms are, and that will provide you a good, fairly decent definition of a particular industry. And furthermore, all those companies, including incumbent and rival roles, often share a critical success factors. That simply means that for firms operating within the industry, because the same external environment they will have experienced, oftentimes uh, they will adopt the same set of strategic elements simply because within this environment, they realize that consumers tend to respond to a particular strategy, whether it's differentiation strategy or uh, low cost strategy better, right? So let's simply highlight that in a particular industry, there are a dominant way of doing business. So hence, those are referring to the critical success factors. Although adopting these success factors tend to be dominant way of doing business, but doing so may not guarantee the success within a given industry. Right? Oftentimes, it really heavily depends on how well you execute uh, these strategy initiatives. Another good way to identify industry is simply look at companies' SIC code or NAICS code. So basically, these are industry classification code that the U.S. government has created in order to identify companies to the corresponding industry. There are also additional way like using field survey, or either primary or secondary data that could help you to better define such industry in a fairly objective manner. However, you need to be aware that top management teams often have their own belief systems, so they tend to only look at others who are their main competitors and will use these main competitors to define their industry. So overall, you have to be aware that although industry can be objectively defined, but top management team often have subjective interpretations of what industry they are in and who are their major competitors. And furthermore, when the company for especially for large company with a portfolio of business units, they often will have multiple industry they compete in. So they often will determine which one of these industry will be their primary industry, where their direct competitors, the competitors who utilize highly similar success critical factors will often be listed as their direct primary competitors. And a secondary industry could be coming from adjacent industry that offer uh, substitutes. And however, the competitors from there are often considered to be less direct. A good way to understand industry is so-called market share. So market share simply represents the proportion of industry sales or industry size that can be attributed to a particular player in the industry. When, however, when revenue data is not available, or when the business wish to evaluate the only subset of their competitors, Oftentimes, what they would do is they would use relative market share, basically looking at the firm's own percentage of sale restrict to very selected competitors. This will come in handy, so that way you will be firms will be able to track how well they are doing in relationship to their major competitors. So that would provide ultimate outcome variable for them to see whether their strategy is successful or not. And another important key construct that I want to highlight is industry life cycles. So simply put, industry life cycle refer to the different stage the industry go through from the first product entry to its eventual decline. So almost all industry will go through these life cycle stages. Some may go through it quicker than others, and a different industry life cycle stage often means that there are different competing logic that could be implemented. So let's quickly talk about some of these. So in the introduction stage, that's when industry life cycle stage, that's when a particular industry start to form. At this time, in the introduction stage, there are not that many competitors out there. There would be only very few companies introduce often innovative product that others have not seen, the consumers have not seen, and because it's so new, they will be soon be recognized as the market leaders for that particular industry, simply because there's no other competitors. So the advantage for a company in the introduction stage is the first mover advantages. So that simply means that they will be easily recognized with. Then sometimes their name may even be equipped with the type of product they introduce. However, at this stage, there will be a high degree of uncertainty in the environment. For example, customers have no idea what to expect from such product. They often do not even know their needs. They need such products, and even when they have experience of this product, they may not understand how to interact, how to utilize these products. So for companies in this stage, they actually take then a great amount of resource to educate customers. Similarly, suppliers and buyers also are unaware of the potential benefit of the product you try to introduce, right? So there will also be the corresponding education need to occur in the introduction life cycle stage. However, you do benefit to moving as the first mover. You don't need to spend big chunk of uh, resource to convince others that you are the industry leaders because there are almost no one else, right? So once there have been enough customers wanting to utilize this product, and the firms start to experience exponential growth in terms of industry outputs and demand, then the industry enter into a growth life cycle stage. At this stage, that's when company can enjoy the second mover advantages, right? Although they are not the first mover, but now at this stage, the company knows better what type of what consumer wants, right? What type of product feature they should improve upon. So oftentimes they will enjoy second mover advantages. And they simply put, it's less costly for them to enter into this particular market space because consumer know exactly what they want. So company doesn't need to spend much resource on educating them. Similarly, buyer and seller also know exactly what to expect, and so you will have an easier time finding identify potential buyers and sellers. And once industry start to enter the maturity stage, that's when pretty much majority of the consumer have realized that the benefit of using these products. Then eventually the industry will experience some kind of industry growth will become plateau, flat basically, right? And at this point, the dominant strategy for firm to survive in this process is through innovation, process innovation, not product innovation that's been highlighted in the introduction and growth stage. So one of the reasons why at the maturity stage, process innovation is the key to prosper in is because that will allow them to better improve the quality of the products. At this point, the technology will be fairly mature. Yet, how you can manufacture or assemble the corresponding products or offer service, the process of doing so can be significantly improved. By improving this process, you actually will be able to generate greater revenue by simply cutting down the cost. And in the process, you may also able to identify incremental improvement of existing product features. Right, so that's why in maturity stage, you will see a lot of company doing process innovation. In this stage, you will also start to see some of the merger and acquisition activity going on, because now slowly, most likely, a few companies will start to become the major player in the industry, and they will start to acquire other firms in order to further expand their market size. Right? So merger and acquisition is also considered one of the potential strategy they can benefit at this at the maturity industry stage. In the declining stage, that's when often will occur when another uh, type of innovation taking place, another paradigm shifting innovation taking place that's going to replace the existing products offered in this industry. As a result, customers have declining interest of purchasing these products. So collectively, company in this industry will start to decrease the amount of their product outputs. At this stage, oftentimes you will see people simply exit this industry. You may still be able to make money if you are able to identify a particular niche in the declining market stage, right? So to quickly sum up, different life cycle stage have different characteristics, but at the same time, it also means they are the corresponding opportunities for learn to for firm to benefit from these. So this table quickly sum up what we have discussed. So overall, first can in the introduction stage, uh, because of recent change in demand or technologies, companies start to enter this industry space. They will be able to enjoy the first mover advantages. They will be equated to the product they introduce. At the same time, however, it would be costly for them to introduce the product to the end users. At the growth stage, that's when you will see a large number of small firms starting to really want to get enter this market to get a piece of pie, right? So this is when second mover advantage will come into play. As a second mover, you don't need to spend too much money on the research and development of the products. At the same time, you also don't need to spend that much money convincing buyers and suppliers, or even customers to get involved with your companies. And toward the end of the growth stage, you may also see some consolidation happenings, but most of these consolidation will occur at a maturity stage, where there's a slow increase in demand. And this is when the strategy of emphasizing service or process innovation will come in handy. So by improving the process or service being offered, you actually will be able to cut down costs and further boost the revenue uh, by attracting larger customer to use your products. And again, at this stage, we will see a continuation of consolidation process. At the declining stage, that's when there's a decline in consumer demand. Oftentimes, the best strategy is either reduce the cost further with more process innovations or identify a particular niche market where in those market space, other other competitors have not been able to take care of consumers' pain point in that space. So that means that there are opportunities for you to gain market share there. However, eventually you will need to think about exit such in industry simply because there's no much else, no nothing else you can do to significantly improve firm performance, right?